The hot topic these days are viruses. With what's happening in the world, everyone is thinking or scared of or concerned about viruses. As a result of that, I decided I wanted to do this experiment, not experiment, but rather research on viruses. And before I get into what I'm doing, I want to just talk to you about my background here a little bit when it comes to health. The last 4 years, I've been focusing with developing a system of astro-homeopathy, of being able to arrive at a homeopathic remedy based on your horoscope, actually. And that's taken me really deep into the health world and is really the primary reason why, for those of you who've taken the time to email me or ask me for a reading, why I never did a reading for you or I never wrote back, because this has been a huge project. And all my reading time has been going into working with patients, clients, on levels on their health using homeopathy, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical health. I've been working on that with the use of homeopathy as determined by the horoscope and working on developing a system to do that with. So the point I'm making is the last 4 years I've been heavily immersed in the disease world, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical disease. And there's really, mental, emotional, physical diseases are all interlinked. They're different levels of the same process, with the physical level being a very superficial level, the emotional level being an intermediary level, and the mental level being the deepest level of disease that we can possibly achieve as a human, okay, or let's say get as a human. So, with this astro-homeopathy, it's going very well. And it's something I do hope to teach in the future to just a few, health-centered students who actually practice different healing modalities, whether it's Ayurveda or whatever. For those of you who are getting excited about hearing that I'm doing astro-homeopathy and want to email me and say, oh, I need your help, I am months behind on my caseload, because with astro-homeopathy, it's not like I see you, I give you a remedy and I go bye-bye. As people, we have layers of disease. We may have 10 layers of disease, and we need to take one layer off at a time. So working with the person to work on the health is never a one-shot deal. It can be, well, honestly, sometimes it is. Yeah, sometimes it's a one-shot deal. But for the average person, it's a 6-month to 2-year process of me regularly working with their charts. And so every person is going to result in 12 readings. So it's not like, so it takes a lot of my reading time. So it takes a long time for me to do this with people. And so all my time is taken. And in fact, yesterday I finally got to one that had been sitting in my inbox for 3 months. So you all won't be able to get readings just for astro-homeopathy right away because I don't have the availability. So those of you who are excited about that, who like that idea, you'll have to probably wait till I get some people trained up on this, which is a ways away, because it's just not humanly possible for me to take on any new cases. Although I can take 1 or 2 on occasionally as one graduates, I can take a new one on, but I can't add to my workload on homeopathy. So anyway, one of the things I wanted to complete before I actually would start training people on the astro-homeopathy was this virus research I want to do. And I decided let's do it now because viruses, what's happening. Viruses are a very questionable thing. In astrology we say viruses are ruled by Rahu. And we prove it. When Rahu comes up and messes up your health, we predict, oh, you're going to have a problem with the virus. And indeed, they go and the doctors say, you have a virus. But the thing is, when you predict anything with Rahu, what you're predicting about, you don't know. Because Rahu is the gray spot in the chart. It's where you don't really know what's really there. So whenever we predict something with Rahu, whenever we say Rahu rules this, it means we really don't know what it is. We have maybe a vague idea, some theories, is what we have. Rahu gives the results of Saturn. Saturn is fear. So the theories we have about Rahu are fearful fear theories. If you live in the city and you don't go into the jungle, and the woods, you have these ideas about the jungle and woods. That's foreign land to you. There's lions and tigers and bears and scorpions and snakes waiting to eat you. That's your theory, you know. When you live in the city all your life and you think about getting stuck in the jungle overnight, you're thinking terrible, scary thoughts, right? Well, that jungle's your Rahu then. You know, if you're used to living in the city, you don't start thinking about all the wonderful things out there in the woods, and if only you can get stuck out in the woods for a night, right? And so Rahu has this idea about things that's always wrong. It's an idea based on, you know, looking at something from a distance where it's unclear, and then creating theories and even truths in our own minds about what's really out there in their woods. And that's a Rahu thing. This idea of viruses is still in the Rahu state. One day, viruses will no longer be ruled by Rahu. Once we truly understand viruses on a scientific level, then Rahu won't rule viruses. When we predict a viral disease, we're going to have to use a different planet. And Rahu will rule something else that we don't quite grasp. Because Rahu is always what we don't know. And what we don't know, we create a fear-based response to, and we look at it through the lens of fear. One of the biggest problems with being human is that our first choice is to look at the unknown with fear. You know? So when people started meeting other races, their first thought was, that person looks scary. You know? It's a black man, it's a white man, it's a this man. Oh, they look scary. They're foreign to me. They're Rahu to me. But now we learn, you know, after mingling races throughout the world that, oh wow, these other people who are, you know, built different with different features and different races, they're actually not as scary as I thought they were. They're just, you know, people. But at first it was a Rahu experience to meet these strange cultures, okay? So with this global community we live in, this is really dramatically fading, where there really hardly are any really foreign, strange cultures in the true sense of the world where we create fears in our own mind. However, when I was in India, they had all kinds of fantasies about how horrible us Americans are. Wow, you know. The things they would tell me, oh, Americans don't marry for love, they just marry for sex. And I'm like, really? Because every American I ever met that came to me with a broken heart was crying because they thought they were in love and brokenhearted when their relationship didn't end, you know. But from the Indian point of view, we're just marrying for sex. We just want sex because we were foreigners to them. Now, that was 20 years ago. Since then, a lot of Indians have come here, have gone back, and they're starting to realize, wait, maybe Americans aren't these sexual maggots after all, you know. So that's a Rahu thing. And viruses are ruled by Rahu. And we know they are because we predict it using Rahu. Which means we don't know the truth about viruses. We just don't know. Yet there's a whole system of our healthcare is basically based on these premises of what viruses are. That would be the same as, you know, people in India deciding if they wanted to go to America based on the horror stories of our love lives. You know, the horror stories that we don't know what love is. We don't have love. They used to tell me that, oh, Americans, you guys don't have love. You don't know what love is. You marry for sex. And I'm like, what? You guys actually think that? A lot of people do. Wow, you know. So imagine a medical system that's based on ideas just as erroneous. Okay? And again, it's not the Indians' fault to believe that. There's enough hints from our culture, from the American culture, to definitely give them that idea, you know. And Americans say, oh, those poor Indians, you know, they get love marriages. Oh, poor them. Oh, how horrible to be forced to marry someone. Wow. Well, the truth is, arranged marriages work for a lot of people. A lot of people find deep love in their arranged marriages. I know so many, actually one of the best matched and happiest couples I know, oh, they had an arranged marriage. And boy, are they in love. But from America, we're like, ooh, yuck, that's evil, that's wrong. No, it's not. We just don't understand it. We haven't experienced it. When you start experiencing arranged marriages, you realize some are good or some are bad. When you start experiencing Americans, you realize that some are really looking for love. And others, yeah, it's true. Some just don't want sex. But I met guys in India that way who just wanted sex. You know, they would just say, oh, I want to meet you know, American girls I could meet because I want this and that. And American girls do that. I'm like, they do? You know? Show me that girl. I never met a girl like that, you know. The ideas we have This is all Rahu stuff, the foreign world. So in virus, when it comes to viruses, we're very much in a foreign world. So we have these ideas that our whole health system around the globe now is based about something we don't even understand. There's a reason they can't test coronavirus correctly. There's a reason 80% of coronavirus tests are coming out erroneous, coming out incorrectly, because they don't really understand what they're even testing. There's been no clinical, statistical measurements with controls and blind studies done to even prove that there ever was a single disease-causing pathogen called a virus. It's all based on Rahu, looking into the darkness and trying to venture what's out there and then basing our medical lives on this thing. Okay? So basically, we don't know shit when it comes to viruses, but we're basing our decisions on them right now to a haphazard fact, to a crazy way now. We're basing decisions. Every decision we make is based on a factor called a virus that we don't even scientifically understand, but which people claim to understand perfectly, right? Wow. Okay. So you get my point. And the drasticity, how extreme we'll get in our theories about things when we don't understand it. Well, that's how Americans think about arranged marriages. That's what Indians oftentimes think about us, sex-crazed Americans, right? But when we get to know each other, we realize it's not true. When we get to know what viruses really are, when we understand what we've been calling a virus, then we'll realize, oh, wow, okay, it wasn't true. Sadly, we haven't gotten to that state yet. So I want to take a little step towards getting to a greater understanding with viruses by asking for your help in this research. Okay? I want data on virus. Okay? I decided to choose a very common virus, herpes. Herpes, 60-some% of people have been found to have herpes. Now here's the best part. The herpes so-called virus. A lot of these people don't exhibit any symptoms whatsoever. Okay? Now, there's this idea that if you have a virus, you should have the disease. Otherwise, how is that virus causing the disease, right? I mean, if I drink arsenic and you drink arsenic and he drinks arsenic, we're all going to die. So if I have this virus and you got that virus and you've got that virus, we should all get the same disease of the virus. But in practice, they're not finding that to be true. Okay? So when we start looking at things, we'll come across dozens of bits of information that make us go, huh, the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know shit when it comes to viruses, okay? So I have my ideas about viruses. And when I first started studying astrology, one of the first things I read in an astrology book by Stephen Arroyo, a really great psychologically centered astrologer, he said, or was it Rudyard? I don't remember. One of those two great guys. I think it was Arroyo. And he talked about this idea of man versus himself and man versus nature. And that people live according to these different models. It's just our basis of our philosophy. The foundation of our philosophy is it's me against myself or it's me against nature. And by nature it means anything out there that can be deemed as threatening. Okay? And he said, those who choose the me against nature approach or philosophy to life always lose. And those who choose the me against myself philosophy to life will always win. And I was like, whoa. Like hearing that was like, wow, Think about that. If you choose this philosophy that it's you against the world, you against the other, you against nature, you against the viruses, you against the bacteria, you against the EMF, you against anything that's not you. Nature, the world is going to kick your ass. You will lose. And you do. Okay? But if you adopt the philosophy of it's man versus himself, it's me against me, then I'm the sole causative agent. This is what yogis do. And so you can take a yogi and you can bury him underground with no air, and 2 weeks later you can unbury him and he smiles at you. Hi, I've been having a good time down here. You hear these stories, right? You hear the story of Alexander the Great's guru when it was his time just walked into a fire and burnt in front of everybody smiling, You hear the stories of the guru drinking cyanide and going, yummy, best tea I ever had, and he doesn't die. So this is people who have achieved to an extreme level of perfection the battle of man versus himself, to where even toxic substances can no longer harm them. Okay? Let's pretend that we're truly capable of that. Okay? Then we can win any battle. Right? How can we lose if we're truly capable against that? I mean, we're into yoga. Who's not into yoga? Who's not into spirituality? Why are we doing this? Because we're playing the game of me versus me, man versus myself. The challenge is not what's out there. The challenge is to make myself better. So what does that mean from a point of view of disease? Okay? It means creating an energy system in your body that doesn't allow you to get ill. Just that simple. Now, to what degree? To a capable degree, a healthy degree, where you can go out in the world and not get sick. It doesn't have to be the degree that you can drink cyanide, like a yogi master, and not die. Okay? But wouldn't that be nice? Okay? But I'm just talking to a healthy degree, where your energy system is functioning in such a way that you don't get a disease. Okay? Now, all these different types of diseases that are famous, malaria, flu, gonorrhea, syphilis, cancer, leprosy. I mean, these are the famous diseases of time. I'm going to do another video about those in relationship to nakshatras, okay, later. All these diseases symbolize the disease process of people. The disease process of people that's a result of their own personal energy imbalances. And there's these few diseases that are models after which every other human disease follows. Like malaria, it's an intermittent disease. You get a fever and it stops. Herpes, you get a flare-up, it goes away. Then you flare up again. It follows the same idea as malaria. It's intermittent. It flares up, it goes away. Flares up, goes away. Okay? So it follows the flavor, the pattern, let's say, of malaria. And all diseases follow a flavor or pattern of these main diseases that have really been marked in humanity's memories. Okay? They're the symbols of these different disease processes. So herpes is a malarial disease process. It flares up and it goes dormant. Okay? So, why is that? Why are some diseases that way? I'll talk about that in a video on nakshatras and health. Okay? Or disease, rather. Alright, so, getting back to the point. So herpes. I decided to choose herpes because 67% of people test positive for the virus called herpes. Okay? Although not all exhibit symptoms. But about 25% of people on Earth have symptoms of herpes. So this is a very common virus. I need a common virus. The second reason I wanted to choose herpes is because herpes is something when you get it, you remember it. Right? Because it always has to do with love or sex. Right? And we remember those things. Right? I need a virus that you remember what you got when you got it. I need a virus that you remember what you got, and one that you remembered what you were feeling like when you got it. Because that's all part of my research data that I need. So I decided to choose herpes. The other reason I wanted to choose herpes is because, the third reason, is because there's this wonderful joke about, I'm turning it into a joke, about herpes that shows you how much we know about viruses. Okay, this shows you in a picture of medical world's understanding of viruses, the scientific knowledge we have of virus. Okay, get this. There's two types of herpes. Herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2. Okay? One of these types tends to be more genital. The other type tends to be more facial. The genital type is more inclined to cause, or they think, although they sort of disavowed this view, it's not popular anymore, but they thought at some point that this herpes virus was responsible for cervical cancer. Then they changed their minds and they decided that HPV, human papillary virus, was the big cause of cervical cancer. Okay, because when they really tested it, herpes, they didn't really prove out. Okay, although there's still this belief around that it's so. And one day they're going to test and find out that HPV is no more responsible for cancer than is, than is eating at McDonald's. So it's a lot less responsible for cancer than eating at McDonald's. Okay? So, that's why I chose that. Now, here's the joke to show you how we know about viruses. So there's these two types of herpes, okay? Now, these two viruses are identified as similar enough that they decided they must have at one point been the same virus that mutated, evolved differently. Why did it evolve differently? Well, they have their theory about it. Get this, all right? The theory is, the reason herpes evolved into a facial and a genital variety is that at some point in time, when humans started to have sex facing each other, they started kissing each other. And therefore, there was another type of mucous membrane that could pass herpes, and therefore was born the herpes, a mutation of herpes. Therefore, herpes mutated into an upper and a lower. Now, if that doesn't teach you about how ridiculous scientific theory is, I don't know what does. I can't imagine a time, maybe I'm just too fucking romantic here, right? But I can't imagine a time when people had sex and didn't kiss. I mean, dogs kiss, for crying out loud, you know? Dogs, they lick each other's jowls. Then they give themselves some oral sex. And then they have sex, right? I mean, they lick each other's lips and they give themselves oral sex even when they're not going to have real sex, right? But as humans, we never thought of kissing someone until we decided, we evolved to the point where we didn't only do it doggy style, that we started actually embracing our lovers and looking into their eyes. I mean, if that's not a medical joke of, the wisdom of medical theories, I don't know what is. So this is the type of information these are the type of theories that viral research is literally based on. It's like, whoa, okay? Gee whiz. Okay, so now I hope you can appreciate that, when about everything they say about viruses is, honestly, it could be as humorous as this sex joke I just made. Okay? It could be just as funny. Alright, so that's why I chose herpes, for these three reasons. What I will do, I want to collect data from you. I'll tell you what that data is. I will look through that data. I will look for themes. And what I'm looking for is not a virus. I don't have an electron microscope here. What I'm looking for is signs of the disturbance of energy in your body. See, every time something happens to us, it either erects our energy to make us healthier, or it displaces our energy to make us sicker. Every impact you have is either erecting you or displacing you. Okay? So I'll be looking for the themes that could be displacing your energy and therefore creating the situation for herpes to impact your life versus this or that or whatever. Why do everyone have so many different diseases, right? Two people can eat out of the same plate. One person has herpes, another person has something different. Okay? Why is that? It's our energetic response to our environment that's really ultimately important, because as science has actually theorized correctly, is that everything is energy. We break it all down and there's no matter. Matter is just energy. Okay? It's our energy that's important. So, I'll be studying the energy patterns. The energy patterns are related to your emotional patterns. And so I also need those. So what I'll need from you, so if you have herpes, or if you know someone who has herpes and you were close to them enough to answer these questions, send on that data, okay? In the information, the notes under this video, I will put I'll put an email to send it to me. Okay? If you have my normal email, you can use that, but I'll have a special email, my medical email, for you to send that to me. Okay? If you have it, I want your birthplace, your birth date, and your birth time. But I don't need the birth date. But if you have it, great. It will be useful at some point in this. But if you don't have it, no big deal. You can still send me your information. I like to know when you got it. You don't have to know the day. You just have to know the period. And by when, you don't even have to know the year. You just have to know when, as in your time frame. It happened when I was like, oh yeah, I owned that red car and I was dating JoJo. That's what I mean by you have to know when you got it, okay? If you know the date, fine, write the date down. I need to know what was happening when you got it. What was going on with your life? Did your mom just throw you out of the house? You know? Did your doggy die? I mean, what was happening in your life that left an impact in your consciousness, okay? Not only when you discovered you had herpes the first time, but in the months leading up to that discovery, okay? Now, if you've been tested positive for herpes and have no symptoms, I don't want to hear from you, okay? I only want to hear from people who have symptoms of either facial or genital herpes, okay? To get that clear. So in addition to what was happening when you discovered or shortly before you discovered, I want to know how you were feeling when you discovered you had herpes or shortly before. How much is shortly? 3 months before, let's say, okay? I want to know how you're feeling about yourself, and I want to know how you're feeling about others, okay? And I want to know how are others feeling about you? How are others judging you when you discovered you had herpes or in the months leading up to your discovery of herpes? Okay? Were other people being nice to you? Were people judging you? Were you getting fired? Were people yelling at you and calling you an idiot? I mean, how were people responding to you in the months leading up to your discovery that you had herpes and in the at the time you did discover it? Okay? Now, because I hope to get a few hundred, at least a few hundred people sending this stuff in, I would like it if you would keep the answers brief and concise as you can. In fact, I'm going to take the brief and concise ones first, because the long ones, they could be so long. I could do 10 brief and I can go over 10 brief and concise ones over some of the long ones I'm sure to get. So I like everyone to keep it precise. What that means is, think about what you're going to write, then write it down. If the only way you can think about what you write is by writing it down, then please write it all down, then read it, and send me the brief and concise, the truths. Because I know, like me, I like to start writing because as I'm writing, I figure it out. And then I have this mile-long thing that helps me figure out 2 things that I need to know, right? So if you do that, write your 5 miles and send me a few feet of, of what is. So try to be as concise as possible so I can get through this without murdering myself and staying up day and night, okay? All right. After I look through everything, I'll see what we get, okay? We'll look for the connections. We'll look for the percentage. 70% of people who found themselves with herpes went through this traumatic or had this experience or whatever. Let's see statistically what people are going through when they have the disease or the months leading up to it. How are they feeling when we had, not we, but when they had the disease? Because as we get diseases as times when our energy is getting disturbed. So you can't get a disease if your energy doesn't get imbalanced. That's why traditional medicines had to do with maintaining your energy balance. They didn't wait until your energy was in balance and you came to them with the disease. They were constantly working on maintaining this energy balance in your system, whether it's Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, or whatever. And so that since your energy system was constantly maintained at a balance, your disease resistance was really high. One of the problems we have these days, people don't think about their health until they're sick. Well, by the time you're sick. Which means your energy is not only imbalanced a little bit, it's imbalanced to the degree that now you have a pathology that's hindering you. What we want to do, we want to maintain health, not lose it and get it back and lose it and get it back. I mean, who wants to play that ping pong game, right? We want to maintain health and die in peace. That's what we want to try to do. So, we need to understand energetically how you're getting impacted. See, when you get an emotional whack, when your father dies, your mother dies, your little sister says, oh, you've only bossed me around and I hate you forever. Wow, those are shocks. When your lover says, I never want to see you again. We shock each other, right? It's a shocking world. When we get shocks, our energy system goes boom. And in that moment of shock, there's a healthy resolution and an unhealthy resolution. The healthy resolution is to process that shock in a way that strengthens us. Okay? However, we don't always have the tools, the wisdom, the friendship, the teachers, the doctors to help us process that shock. Instead, we go to the doctor or the psychologist and they say, you need this drug. You need Prozac. It's totally normal to be depressed after that. You need Prozac. It's like, wait a minute, can't you just help me process this in a healthy way? No, you just need Prozac. That's how we're treated these days. There's no room for processing. Mothers don't get to take a year off or 2 years to process motherhood. I mean, motherhood, what a shock. That's like, whoa, that's a huge deal. It's a wonderful shock, but oh my God. It's like born again, right? It's like a huge shock. And mothers don't get a year or two to process being motherhood. Somebody dies. We don't wear black clothes for 6 months and grieve for 6 months. We don't grieve anymore. Oh, somebody died, I'm going to go get Prozac. Somebody died, I'm going back to work. We live in a culture these days where we simply don't take the time to process the shocks. We get our heart broken. Before we even process our heartbreak, we're getting our heart broken by the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh people. So think of what all these unprocessed shocks do to the body. We have this saying, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. Well, there's no shock that ever killed a person right away. That's like lightning, right? You get struck by lightning, yeah, you might die right away. But there's no shock that kills people right away. But you take a few shocks that aren't processed and you die over time. And this is where most chronic diseases originate from, unprocessed shocks to our system. Okay? So it's very important to understand that it's very true. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So when we get a shock, if we take time to process it, well, it's a blow. But then our energy processes it. We process it, and we become stronger through it. Okay? All shocks are the opportunity to get stronger, but we don't take them as opportunities. We run to help. We run to bad help. We don't run to understanding. We run to Prozac and this and alcohol and drinking and marijuana and everything that keeps us from processing a shock. Okay? And none of that's going to do us any good. Okay? So I need to know the shock. I have to analyze the shock because that's what makes us sick ultimately. Shocks that don't make us stronger, that build up and kill us. And from what I've seen about the lives of the people I've seen in my, with my clients who I've worked with herpes, who've come in and said, I got herpes and when is it going away, predicted to me over the years, things like that. I've noticed some things about their lives. I noticed certain things not working in their lives that would be very shocking and very traumatizing. But I want to look and see what happens when I literally look at hundreds of cases, where people are specifically sharing this information for me. Okay? Once I look through all that, I will have another video and I'll talk about what I've discovered here. And I think this will obviously create a lot of information about herpes. Of course, I'll be looking at horoscopes as well for those who did provide their data, and adding some astrological information as a result of that. And then we will know a lot about herpes, but we will also understand something about these so-called viruses. Okay? I have my theories, which if they prove correctly, of course, I'll share with you in a future video. All right, anyone who can help, I appreciate it. Oh, and of course, it goes unsaid. I will not be using any of this information against you. It will not be shared. I don't need your name. You can say, I had a friend who had herpes. I don't care who it is. Okay? I would like to know if it's male or female, because men and women are shocked by different things, so it helps me to know if you're male or female. Okay? So if you just say male, born in that, that's all I need. Okay? I don't need to know anything else about you. Okay, thank you very much.